Good morning. Yes, I am back. Larry Sharpe is here yet again. I'm here at the governor's house. That's the cool new radio show that we have running for governor in New York State. I was here last night and I'm back. I had so many comments and questions. I had so many people asking me stuff. I couldn't get it all done. So I'm trying to get it all done now. Let's hope I can. Let me bring up a couple things. If you want to, by the way, if you want to be involved with the show today, please call in 877-480-4120. Again, 877-480-4120. I'll take your question live on the air and I'll answer it. Yesterday, people asked me several questions and I want to cover some of them. One of them was, why am I running as Libertarian, not as a Republican? Well, I could run as a Republican or Democrat here in New York State, but why would I run as a Democrat? I'm not one. Why would I run as a Republican? I'm not one. But people say, well, Larry, you could have a better chance of being known or a better chance of victory. Well, the odds of me beating Cuomo in a Democratic primary are a bazillion to one. In fact, they're impossible. There's no way I'm going to beat him in a primary, so why would I run as a Democrat? Running as Republican. For those of you who don't know, this is New York State. This isn't Idaho. This isn't South Carolina. This is New York State. Republicans can no longer win a statewide election in this state. The state has become simply too blue. And Republicans, New Yorkers, don't like Trump at all. The stench of Trump in New York State is really, really bold. So for me to run as Republican in New York State, it's impossible. It is literally, there's a better chance, I'm not making this up, there is a better chance of me winning as Libertarian than there is as a Republican. Is there a better chance of me doing better as Republican? Yes, better chances, but zero chance of victory. It's never going to happen. As a Libertarian, I have a chance. Don't get me wrong. It's slim. I get it, but it exists and it can happen. It's a mountain that can be climbed. So that's why I'm running as Libertarian. On top of that, I've said before many times, and I have to talk the talk and walk the walk. And that is, this is not just about me. This campaign is about me. Of course it is. I'm running. It's not just about New York either. It's also about the entire party. It's about the whole party learning and understanding that we can run as Libertarians, that we can run a real campaign. Many of you know, and I've brought this up many times, there are over 7 people on my executive team, over 40 people who are active volunteers. Thank you for those who are volunteers. With that in mind, most of them are not actually in New York State. Some people don't like that. I do, because that means everything we learn, everything we do here to become a powerful party, a powerful campaign, people now take every place else. We know that I am not hoarding all the stuff we do. I am telling everybody what it is. I'm letting people know. I'm doing videos. I'm showing you how I communicate. I am using this not only as a way to win, but also as a way to train and teach the party and to build party culture that we don't have. A party culture of support, a party culture of raising money, a party culture of not just being the wackos. Again, I like our wackos, as I said last night, but that's just our wackos. They're not going to win for us. They're going to be the teachers and trainers for us, right? To bring people more towards what the core of the party is. But we have to make sure that we know how to actually be more mainstream to win. That's the issue. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing it there also. But on top of that, as there's always another step with me, in New York State, I have to get 50,000 votes in a gubernatorial campaign for us to get ballot access. So if I run on another line and we don't get 50,000 votes on a Libertarian line, we don't get ballot access. Literally, I could win the governorship as an independent and Libertarian Party would not have ballot access. So I have to get ballot access for the state also. Otherwise, how can we run other candidates? And look, I don't want to be a flash in the pan, right? If I win this thing, I don't want to be Jesse Ventura. And all of a sudden I'm, a guy and then I'm forgotten and I'm stuck on RT when I'm 50. I'm almost 50 next year. When I'm 60, right? I don't want to be stuck there. So instead, I want to make sure that when I win, I can bring others up with me. That's the most important piece. I can bring everybody up with me. They can watch me, they can follow me, that kind of thing. When I was in New Jersey earlier this year, someone asked me a question. They said, Larry, what movie archetype are you? And I said, well, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi. They said, what? Yeah. I said, I'm the guy who dies halfway through the movie fighting the bad guy. And then all the other powerful kids come up and they win. So hopefully I don't die fighting the big guy. But anyway, the point is I'm here to be the teacher and the sage and to help people to move forward and be better. So that's why I'm running as Libertarian and as a Republican or Democrat or swapping. People also ask me about Austin Peterson running as a Republican in Missouri, and what are his chances and his odds? I think his were the kind of the same as mine. I think the odds of him winning his odds of him doing better as a Republican are accurate. Odds of him winning, I think, are actually lower. I think he would have a better chance of winning as a Libertarian. But not just that. In my opinion, and he knows this. This is not something that's hiding. I've told him more than once before. I think he should have stayed with the party. I think it would have been a better bet for him. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he wins and he does well. And I hope I'm wrong. And next year I'll be saying, Larry, look, you were wrong. And I'll say I was. I have a feeling the opposite will be true. I have a feeling I'll be telling him, Austin, you should have stayed. Because the problem with running as a Republican is if he loses, he's another also ran. But if he was a Libertarian and he loses, but he does well, he still is a hero to the party. So I know that's an important piece. So also the last piece, I want to encourage others to run. And as I've been doing for the past year and a half, I've been telling people they should run. I got to talk the talk and walk the walk. So I'm running. So there are many reasons why I'm running. I hope that answered the question that people were asking me last night. Another thing people were talking about was the idea of net neutrality. I want to cover net neutrality, but I want to cover it in a different way. I want to talk instead about the idea of sunset laws. I'm a big fan of sunset laws on everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. I think no law should be valid for any more than 6 years. Now, of course, exceptions to the Constitution, obviously, because that's the foundation. So obviously the Constitution is an exception to that rule. I think every other law should be only valid for 6 years and has to be revoted on, with a very specific caveat. It must be a single issue vote. You can't say, here's the law, and by the way, here's 9 writers that make it not a law anymore. Here's 9 writers that give everything away to all my constituents. So we can't do that. Now, why do you say that? Here's the reason why. I cannot stop silly, selfish, bad legislators from passing crappy laws. That's impossible. That's going to happen. They're going to do it because they want to show that they're powerful or give to their constituents or fulfill a promise or show they care about you, whatever that case may be. I can't stop that. But what I can do is make sure they go away. The funny part is most of these laws, the people who pass them don't actually care about the law. They care about the brand value of the law. I did something for you. See that? They care about that. So if we allow them to have their brand value, which is going to happen anyway, then it goes away. Most of them won't even care if it goes away. Right? Do you think the guy who decided we need to have a regulation on walking dogs, dog walkers, you think that guy's like, oh, it's critical? No, he made his constituency happy. That law goes away in 6 years. He won't care. Now, of course, the answer I always get is, what happens if we forget to, do murder? Oh my God! First off, that's silly. That's the first off. It's silly. We're gonna forget murder. Stop. But let's assume we actually did forget murder. I mean, I don't know why we're even going here, but people do this all the time with me, so I need to cover it. Let's assume for a moment we absolutely forget to renew murder. Okay, so the guy who murders someone that day that we forgot, that day, then he'll be charged with manslaughter or assault or something else that day. Immediately, Assembly will realize we forgot murder, and they'll reinstate murder. So even if it did happen, the one time it did, then one guy be charged with some other crime that he still did anyway, and he won't go to jail for life. He'll go to jail for 20 years instead. Okay, one time out of how many millions of people who get charged and how many times it happens? Again, we cannot legislate perfection. We can't regulate perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. So instead, let's do what keeps people the most happy, the most fair, and is moral. And that's the concept of sunset laws, laws that come into play and then go away. Now, why do I bring up the idea of even sunset laws? Because sometimes we do want to right or wrong. An example I bring up here in New York is the idea of rent stabilizing, right? When our veterans come back from a war, particularly back in the World War II, when we drafted people and sent them off to fight, that was what the government did. They literally said, I'm taking you away from your family and I'm sending you off to some foreign world to go fight. Okay, got it. No worries. The government wants to right a wrong, wants to give the people some kind of benefit or help to right the wrong. I'm totally fine with that, but that cannot be forever. And that goes with people who are minorities, people who are veterans, people who are inside whatever that issue might be, right? Whatever it is. No worries. I'm okay with that concept. Righting a wrong. It cannot be in perpetuity. If it is in perpetuity, That's a problem. What you're doing is you're creating a protected class. I don't want to create protected classes because what it does in the long run is it insults the protected class. It tells that class that it can't survive on its own. It tells that class that needs help forever. It tells that class that they are bad. That's not the right answer. So again, if you want to right or wrong, theoretically, I'm okay with that conceptually, but perpetuity is the problem. Someone's asking if this is a Marine Corps shirt. Yes, it is. USMC. There we go. Yes, I was a Marine for 7 years, and I still have the shirt. This shirt's probably 30 years old. More, maybe. I don't know. It's an old shirt. I bought it at the PX, actually, on base, so I still have the shirt. So, yeah, look, once a Marine, always a Marine. I can't get around that. Sorry, guys. I don't know if that makes you happy or not. I don't really know. All right, so the reason why I bring up the sunset law issue is we often want to right or wrong. So why did I go now to net neutrality? Net neutrality is not simple at all. It just isn't. Because the rules that create net neutrality was created as a band-aid to fix, as a government band-aid to fix a government-created problem, right? The government created cartels in the system. It created the cartels and the monopoly system that is in the internet right now. It created that system in the first place, right? So it said, well, how do we fix that system? Oh, I know. We'll make another system on top of it. So we'll use force to cover our mistake we made in the first place. That's why it's so hard. If you remove the band-aid, you still have the original government problem that was created in the first place. Now, the sad part is the federal government didn't create the problem in the first place. Many local governments did. They decided, because I want you to bring internet into my town, I'm going to give you a monopoly so you can bring the internet into my town. That was done often in many places throughout the country. New York State, no exception. So all of a sudden now people are saying, well, great, now there's only Comcast or only Verizon or insert wherever you are in your world, right? Only this. So the government said, that's a problem, monopoly. So let's put net neutrality on top of that. You have to fix both. Otherwise, it's a problem. You have to fix both. Just like in our hospital system, our healthcare system, we've created cartels. Now, we've created cartels and monopolies because our mindset has always been centralized control is the best. Centralized control works. It doesn't. You're actually beating up other options for people, making things better. So we don't want net neutrality. What we actually want is net plurality. I want more and more providers to go into local areas. I want more and more providers. If there was anything to do, it would be, how about we start telling the local communities, stop setting up monopolies, right? How about antitrust laws against the local communities who create monopolies on purpose? How about that? What I want is more choice. Net neutrality, while it's a problem, so it's an underlying problem. We have to fix both at the same time. The problem is that will take time, and there will be some transition pain, as there is now as getting rid of net neutrality. There's going to be some pain. But if we don't fix the underlying problem, there's going to be a whole lot more pain. All right. Am I wrong? Am I right? Let me know. 877-480-4120. Want to know more about me? Go to LarrySharpe.com or the Larry Sharpe for New York Facebook page. I'll talk to you again after this break.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Are you stuck in a rut? Negative thoughts, feelings, and conversations got you down? Hi, I'm Noreen Sumter, the Potentiator. Tune in every Tuesday, 9 to 10 Eastern Time, and listen for new ideas on my show, Beyond Potential. Live life your way on TalkRadio.NYC.
Want to connect with?
Are you an entrepreneur or intrapreneur looking to build your following?
Welcome to our show.
Follow Me Friday with Joan
and Priya.
Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern
on TalkRadio.NYC.
We're your digital connectors. Woo woo!
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to the Governor's House. Larry Sharpe here, Governor of New York. If you want to join the program, 877-480-4120. Also, if you want to watch or listen to the show clearer, if you're having trouble on Facebook, you can go to TalkRadio.NYC. That's the actual station here. And by the way, we're doing a marathon, 12 hours straight. I started off. I'm the tip of the spear. Yes, I am the Marine, first in, last out. That's me. So I'm the one starting this. But after me, there are another, Sam, what, 10 shows after me? Oh, my God, 10 more shows. A lot of shows after me if you want to. So you can keep listening, and you can go ahead and listen on. All right, so let me cover some more of these questions and comments. Someone called me Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes, I am the Obi-Wan. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Someone said, Larry, I think you make too much sense. You are talking the talk and walking the walk. Well, again, look, as a libertarian, I don't want to use force to make anyone do anything. So what do I have? I have communication and I have example. I have my freedom of speech and my freedom of association. So I use those four things, and I hope that that gets people to say yes, to believe that I'm right, and to do what I ask them to do, not because of force, because they choose to. So yes, that's what I'm doing. How else can I get you to do it if I don't do it? There's no way. I have to. So yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. So you know who just walked into the studio? Hello. My lovely wife walked into the studio. Yes, she did. Absolutely. So she's here. I don't think she's going to show her face because she's scared, because you know what it really is? She's so pretty. She thinks that if she shows her face, I told her this too, that everyone will now come after me and just to get to her. So I know that's an issue. It's a truth. So yes, absolutely. Okay. So Sean asks, does New York State still allow candidates to run on multiple parties? Yes, we are a fusion state. So you can physically run as other parties. I'm not doing it, as I mentioned, because it matters for the party itself. That's what matters. Keith asks, I hope you plan on making lots of appearances across New York State over the next 10 months. We need to hear you. Yes, indeed. I'm actually doing an upstate tour in January, 3 or 4 days. So I'll be upstate in January and again throughout the actual campaign. We're going to do a bus tour where it's going to touch a bunch of colleges also. So we'll be doing all of those things. Of course, look, the goal here is, people have asked me, Larry, how are you going to fight Cuomo's, millions of dollars? And yes, he already has over $25 million in his bank already. So he's preparing for his presidential campaign. I can't raise more than him, and I don't need to. I have to raise enough to get across the state 3 times. If I can get across the state 3 times, people will hear my message, and I got a shot. So I just raised that. I think that number is $1 million. That's what I think. We raised about $100,000 now. We need another $900,000 in the next 11 months. That is, again, a mountain, but one that we can climb. I never said this would be easy. It's not, but it can be done. These are climbable mountains. I need your help, obviously. So go to LarrySharpe.com, Sharpe with an E, and donate whatever you can give, 10, 15, 20, 100. My max is $44,000 in my state. I know some of you are jealous right now. You're stuck at 2,700 or something like that. Yeah, New York's, we're corrupt enough to do something like that. So we're 44,000. No worries. If you actually wanted to write a check for 45,000, if you wanted to, go 44. Give me 1,000 next time I run. It's fine. We'll cover that. You'll owe me. All good. So please help us out. All right. Rachel says, adaptation to the times, one law at a time. These should be bipartisan views. Yes, I'll go one step further, Rachel. They should be nonpartisan views. They should be views that anyone holds. Why in the world do we accept writers on a bill that has nothing to do with the law? Why is that the way? That is literally the way to create pork. That's how you create pork. That's how you create deficits. It's how you create debt. It's how you do it. It's how you pay back your cronies. It is the way of crony capitalism. What we have to work on here is exactly that. Single issue votes. That is an important piece that people don't talk about. But I will, and I do. We don't want to encourage legislators to go, oh yes, I'll agree to your bill, Larry, if you give my buddy this cool thing. If you give my friend this cool thing. So yes. Larry, could you comment on the need for the LP and LP candidates to approach voters as a moderate, not present themselves as radicals or crazy people on the street corner? David, I'm actually not sure that's true, to be forward with you. We do need mixed messages. We do need bomb throwers. We need those too. We need people who are going to be radical. We need people who are going to be audacious. We need people who are going to be more mainstream. We need them all. The issue is there are 330 million Americans, and each of them are going to hear something in a different time, in a different way. Some of them need the radicalness. Some of them need the bomb thrower. Some of them don't. In my world, I'm not the bomb thrower. It's not what I am. I do consider myself relatively radical. I mean, I think I am radical. I mean, if you hear what I'm talking about getting rid of a lot of things. I just say it in a nice way. I say it in a way that's palatable, and I'm also realistic in what can happen tomorrow. So I speak it in that way. I don't think my message is any less pure than anyone else's. I just think I may be slower getting there, and I may be nicer getting there. But that doesn't mean my message is the only one. I think we should have all messages, all mixed, all over the place. I do believe if we want to win, that our main message, the one by most candidates, should not be audacious, should not be a negative and seem crazy. But I think we want to keep them. Those are important parts. Said this before, and I'll say it again. The Democrat-Republican Party, they aren't really parties. They're tribes. And they're run by the local warlord. In this case, Trump is the warlord now for the Republicans. I'm not sure. Is Elizabeth Warren maybe? Bernie still is the warlord? I'm not sure. They're kind of fighting over who their warlord is, the Democratic Party. But if you look at a Clinton Democrat, a Carter Democrat, and an Obama Democrat, they're different Democrats. You look at a Reagan Republican, a Bush Republican, and a Trump Republican, different Republicans. They're different. And they're different because the parties have forgotten where they're supposed to be. They're only concerned about beating each other. They're concerned about victory at whatever the cost. If we get rid of our principle, so what? Doesn't matter. Victory, whatever the cost. So what happens here is now you look at Democrats who are supposed to be about civil liberties. They're not. They're about beating Republicans. Republicans are supposed to be about respecting our tax base and supporting innovation and small business. They're not. They're about being Democrats. So whatever they need to say or do, that's what they do. The Libertarian Party actually has an ideology, right? I can call myself King of Libertarians as long as I want. That's not going to work at all. That is so not going to work. The warlords don't work here in our party because we fight over ideology, which while that can be a pain, it is a pain sometimes. It's the right answer because we actually have an ideology to fight over. We actually have something to talk about. No individual warlord can say, I'm the king of libertarians. Doesn't work. Do you follow our ideology? Do you follow our precepts? Do you understand what we're talking about? Principle matters in our party. It doesn't matter in the other parties. They're not parties anymore. They're just tribes, which is why I think we can win here in New York and throughout the country. Because if you're a Democrat, the odds are you're unhappy with your party. If you're a Republican, the odds are you're unhappy with your party because the rhetoric is what you want to hear and you've been happy with the rhetoric. But the actual governing, you haven't been so happy about at all. At all. And eventually you're getting tired and going, you know what? I'll take this Libertarian Party because at least they'll give me pieces of what I want. At least they have an ideology. At least I can be heard. At least that can happen. So I think we have a good opportunity here to make that happen. All right. Let me take some more questions if I can. All right. Let's see. Is a kingdom of monopolies? Yes. Great. This is the issue. And I talk about this consistently. Government is monopoly. People don't see that. They think, well, government takes care of monopoly. Government fixes monopoly. Government is monopoly. And the worst part is it's a worse monopoly because it's less efficient and they just take your money. At least regular monopolies, you have a choice of giving them the money or deciding you don't want this product or service at all, right? At least in a regular monopoly. In a government monopoly, there's no decision. They just take your money and you pay for the monopoly. And they're inefficient. And they're mean about it on top of it. So government monopoly is just a monopoly. I want to break all monopolies to include government monopoly. I'm actually not about abolishing things. As you know, I'm not about abolish. I'm about create other options for people and let the government options either get better or improve or wither and die. Either one, I'm okay. As long as we make choices and these government organizations are now funded by the consumer. That's the issue. Like the post office, similar idea I bring up often. If you're choosing to pick the government option, I'm okay with that. Enjoy, go ahead. If you're not, well, now we have an issue. So, all right. Key says, an actual member of our armed service, of armed forces holding office. While we want that, they'd actually put effort in taking care of them. There's the issue. What you find is so many veterans are anti-war. Why? Because they know veterans who've fought or been hurt or been wounded or families who've been destroyed. I'm not a war vet, right? I'm a veteran from the Cold War era, so I'm not a combat vet. I know combat vets, and I've dealt with many of them, and I've seen what happens to them. And the worst part about war, to be forward with you, and it's going to sound crazy for some of you civilians, is because we've done such a good job in the medical community. A lot of Marines, soldiers, sailors, and airmen are coming back, and 30 years ago they wouldn't have come back. And some of them wish they hadn't come back. Some of them wish they had just not come back because their life is so tough and so hard, not just for them, which many of them are actually okay with their life being bad for them, but their life is bad for their loved ones. Their loved ones suffer so much that they feel inadequate, they feel like a burden, and they kill themselves. Again, about 100 people every day in America commit suicide. 22 are vets. Only 10, statistically, should be killing themselves, statistically, but 22. So twice as likely as a vet to kill themselves. And, of course, because they're violent, they use guns. That's what they do, of course. We're efficient with that. So, yes, I know it's a sad thing, but we are. So, yeah, if you care about vets, you do 3 things. 1, you don't force them to join. No draft. Good. 2, you bring them home. They only fight wars when we are actually threatened, right? That you do that, you bring them home. And next, you actually help them heal. You actually help them heal. Now, I'm going to tell you something that some of you aren't going to like. A lot of people say things like, thank you for your service for veterans. You shouldn't say that. I know people are going to be upset when I say that, but you shouldn't. What you should say is something like this. Particularly for Vietnam vets, but for any vets, if you know they're combat vets, tell them welcome home. There's a much better message, particularly for Vietnam vets who were never welcomed home. Now, remember, I was in the Marine Corps in the 80s, so all of my leadership, most of my leadership were Vietnam vets, right? My sergeant majors, my master sergeants, my colonels, a lot of them were Vietnam vets when I was in the Marine Corps. Tell them welcome home. If they've come back from Afghanistan, if they've come back from Iraq, tell them welcome home. Let them know that they're desired to be back, that you care that they're home. That is much more important than thank you for your service. Some of them aren't combat vets and actually feel bad about hearing it. They feel they didn't give enough. Many of them who actually are combat vets but who weren't wounded and saw their brothers and sisters wounded, they feel like they didn't give enough. So telling them welcome home, believe it or not, even wounded veterans who saw their brothers and sisters die, they think they haven't given enough. So telling them thank you for your service sometimes makes them feel bad because they feel like I didn't serve well enough. I didn't serve my brothers and sisters well enough. I didn't give enough. Welcome them home. Tell them that you're glad they're back. Tell them thank you for coming home and being here and being part of our community. It's a better way of making them feel good about their service. All right, am I right? Am I wrong? Are you mad at me for the thank you for your service thing? That's all right. Let me know. 877-480-4120 to join. Also, remember, we're in a 12-hour block today, so if you want to keep listening, go to TalkRadio.NYC. I'll talk to you after the break.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Are you a curious person, always asking questions? Do you desire to be in the know? I'm your host, Antonia, of the show So Now You Know. Join me as I attempt to satisfy your curiosity. Listen live Tuesday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. weekly at TalkRadio.NYC.
If you have an interest in marijuana, you want to know about marijuana, law, policy, and culture, then feel free to join me, Joseph A. Bondi, every Friday at 11 o'clock in the morning on my show In the Know 420 on TalkingAlternative.com.
Legalize the earth to continue to resist the passage of this necessary legislation.
Talking Alternative Radio, 24 hours a day.
All right, we're back at the governor's house. It's Larry Sharpe. If you want to be part of the program, 480-4120. A lot of people asking more questions. I'll try to cover them. Here's some more. Gun control. How will I deal with gun control in New York State? Well, I have a video. If you want to go to my Larry Sharpe for New York video page, there's a video on the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act is an embarrassment to our state. It is a terrible idea that doesn't help, makes a bunch of law-abiding citizens now criminals overnight, and has people being arrested as they drive through our state. And just so you understand this, if you have a legally owned and purchased firearm and you're driving through New York, not even stopping, driving through, if they catch you, you will go to jail. I'm not exaggerating. This is not hyperbole. You will go to jail. You will go to jail for owning a gun. Now, not just this. If the gun, if the firearm and the ammunition are in the same bag, I'll say this again. If they're not loaded, the weapon is not loaded, but the weapon and the ammunition are in the same bag, New York State says that's a loaded weapon. To jail you go. I'm not joking. Do your own homework if you want to. The SAFE Act is embarrassing. It has to, look, I would love to repeal it tomorrow. Can't. Impossible. Can I use the bully pulpit in the first year of my governorship to show people how bad it is? Yes. Can I stop enforcing it? Yes. I don't know why we are. There's a problem that we have here in our country in general. New York and many other states, it's blatant, but everywhere is a problem. And the problem is we worship law. We think law means righteous. Just doing my job, just doing my job. I've heard people actually say this. Larry, we're a nation of laws. It's a good thing. Being a nation of laws is not impressive. Imperial Japan was a nation of laws. That's not impressive. They bombed Pearl Harbor. That's not impressive. Lots of nations are nations of laws. The Weimar Republic, which became Nazi Germany, was a nation of laws. That's not impressive, right? Instead, we want to be a nation of principles. Principles are more important than law. Law right now is written by corporate lobbyists. So law right now is corporate policy. We're going to worship corporate policy? That's just silly, right? That's just silly. So that's a problem. But here's the issue, though. It goes deeper. The issue is people are now arresting people and putting them in jail in Rikers Island because you have weapon next to ammunition. And their answer is, it's because it's the law. I'm doing my job. Lawmakers should change the law. That's a cop-out. That's a coward's answer. That is a coward's answer. When we put the Japanese people in prison camps, was that okay? That was the law. How about when slaves were leaving the South, escaping, and people grabbed them and sent them back to their slave masters because it was the law? It's immoral. The SAFE Act is a moral issue. It's immoral. It should be repealed immediately. So I'm not going to handle gun control. I'm going to talk about the SAFE Act until it gets repealed. Now, I brought that worshiping of law piece in because I want to talk copyright issues. All right. I was at a business event one day talking to a copyright attorney, a patent attorney, IP attorney. And the attorney, we were talking about copyright laws. And she said something like, I may get this wrong, but you'll get what I'm talking about. She said, copyright is 99 years after the death of the author. Now, I may be off on that, but it's something like that. And I said, wow, what a terrible law. She said, but it's the law. I said, no, I get that it's the law. It's a terrible law. And she said, no, but you don't understand, Larry. What we did is we changed our laws to match international law. I said, great, I got it. It's a terrible law. I'm not saying you are incorrect. I'm not saying anything you're saying is incorrect. It is a bad idea, a terrible law. 99 years after the death of the author, that is a really bad idea. She got mad at me. She got mad at me not because I thought the law was not because the law was a bad idea, but because I questioned the law. Because in her eyes, law equals righteous. There's no difference. So what I was, by saying the law was bad, I was evil. I was against the priestess because she's a priest of the law, and the law is what she worships. And that is sadly common. So when it comes to copyright, the reason people do it is because it's the law. Now, I'll cover two different parts. Let me go back to the worshiping law, then I'll head back to copyrights. Another example of this, I'm teaching a class. I teach a class at the Department of Buildings here in New York, and we're talking about the idea and the concept. I can't remember what it's called. You can have your property if you want to. You can have it protected See if I get the phrase right. You have it protected. You can have it landmarked. Thank you. Its name is called landmarked. You can have your property landmarked in New York City if you want to. If you get it landmarked by the community, then it can't be knocked down because it's landmarked, because it's special. And it's fine. If you have a property, you want it landmarked, no worries. You can do that. But your property can also be landmarked without you wanting it to be landmarked. Your local community can landmark your property. So I'll say it again. I own the property. The community can say, it's an old property, we landmark it. So now it's landmarked. What does that mean? That means I can't make changes to my property that I own unless the community agrees. I didn't volunteer this. I have no choice. It's the law. Not just that. All the taxes, all the issues and concerns I'm responsible for. I have to repair everything and pay the dues and the fines if I don't, even though I can't do it unless the community agrees. So the community can disagree and I have to pay. That's New York City. That's okay. So I'm talking to this guy in the Department of Buildings and I bring this up and I say, how is that okay? He says to me, Larry, you don't understand. It's the same law that allows us to condemn a building. I said, oh, okay. Condemning a building I get, because if you condemn a building, if a building falls down, you have to condemn it because if it falls down, people could die, be hurt. I got it. There's a victim. I understand the concept of condemning laws. Makes sense. There's a victim. I'm with you. And I told him that. I said, I get it. Then I said, where's the victim with landmarking? He goes, no, Larry, you don't understand. It's the same law from condemning. I said, I got that. I do. I understand that. I'm asking you, where is the victim in the case of landmarking? He repeated it. Larry, you don't understand. It's the same law for condemning. Why? Because he sees law as righteous. So because there is a law, it is okay. It's irrelevant if you take my property. It's irrelevant if you screw me over. It's irrelevant. It's law, therefore righteous. There was no requirement in his mind to explain anything to me. Not necessary. It's obvious. It's moral. It's law. So then I went further. You know me, I always go further. So I went further and I said, well, wouldn't it be at least fair if maybe you gave the guy a break on taxes because you've taken his property, or maybe you helped him on maintenance or something? If the community is going to say, I'm taking your property, shouldn't the community give him something in return? Of course, you know what his response was. No, of course not. He owns the property. It's the law. Of course. So I wanted to cover that law worship thing. That's a problem we have. Humanity has a problem, a big problem with just doing my job, just following the law, just following orders. Boy, have we had a problem with that many, many, many times in history. And we should probably learn that lesson. Law is not righteous. Principles are righteous. And if you believed in principles, you wouldn't think it's okay to take someone's land without somehow compensating them. That's actually in our Constitution, isn't it? Right? You don't seize land without giving compensation. Isn't that part of our Constitution? Part of what we're supposed to be doing? So, yeah. Now, I know I went around the block here, but I'm going to come back now. I'm going to come back now to copyrights. I have an issue with copyright and intellectual property. I know the party in general is completely against it. I'm not. I'm not completely against it. And the reason why I'm not completely against it is when intellectual property is property, so there should be some property rights. I do think we've gone too far. The original idea behind intellectual property law, some of you may know there's a lot of copyright law and that kind of thing, was to protect consumers, right? The original idea was to protect consumers, right? So they wouldn't get knockoffs, right? So people couldn't lie and cheat. That was the original idea behind it, right? But that's not really what happens now. Now it's just protecting property, which again, I'm okay with because I do want to encourage people to innovate. And if someone creates something of intellectual property and they get nothing from it, nothing for it, it does stifle innovation. So I do want some intellectual property rights. I do want some. 99 years past the death of the author is insane. That's insane. That's just to allow some corporation to keep Mickey Mouse forever. That's all that is. That's what that's about. That's about some corporation keeping Mickey Mouse forever. That's not about actual righteousness, right? If you want to say someone creates something, then they get 5 years, 7 years, X number of years, I'm not that unhappy about that. 2 years maybe, whatever the case may be. In today's world, technology changes within 2 years anyway, so whatever you made probably is irrelevant in 5 years anyway. So probably 2 years is enough, but you don't want to go to a point to where you punish the innovator. At the same time, you don't want to stop others from piggybacking off of that technology to make even greater and better things, right? So you do want to have some kind of intellectual property rules and regulations. So I hope that was clear. this falls back into what my wife was talking about. My wife here told me we were walking here today. Yes, we live in New York, so we walk. So we were walking here today, and she said, Larry, I sometimes feel like you libertarians don't want any rules or regulations at all. And it's not true. I know people think that. They do, but it's not true. The reality of it is we only want rules and regulations to when there is a victim, to when there is a chance of loss of life, liberty, property, health, limb. Yeah, of course we do, right? Those are regular laws. It is completely okay and appropriate for government to step in to protect someone's rights. In fact, that should be the actual rule of law, to protect someone's rights. The problem with democracy, and while I'm not against democracy, democracy is the best government we found so far, right? But we have to go one step further from democracy. The problem with democracy is it allows mob rule. And we see that right now. That wasn't as bad early on, but it's clear now. The Republicans get in power and they enforce their will upon Democrats. Democrats get in power, they enforce their will upon Republicans. So it's become mob rule, right? So, because we all vote that people named, Bob should be in jail, doesn't mean people named Bob should be in jail. This goes back to our worshiping law aspect, right? So while democracy is great, I love it, good, the best one we have so far, government has to be there to stop the Bobs from going to jail. Government has to be there to stop the bullying of the masses, right? Government's job should be to protect the individual rights. This way they aren't bullied by the democracy. So we do absolutely, well, not all, some libertarians are total anarchists. I get it, some are. The vast majority aren't. And I love my anarchists because you keep me pointing in the right direction, so please don't leave the party. But in reality, the people, the average libertarian just wants limited government that spends its time protecting the rights of the individual, so that when the masses decide, you can't do this, you can't do that, the government says, wait a minute, you can't step on someone's rights. Government should be stepping in to stop someone landmarking your property when you don't want your property landmarked, right? If you want to landmark your property, good for you. But when someone forces you, government should be stopping that. Government's job should be to make sure that people aren't victims, or if they are victims, that the wrong is righted to the best of the government's ability, that there isn't some retaliation, not retaliate, wrong word, reparation. There isn't reparation for wrongs being righted. Yeah, so we can right wrongs. The problem we have now is law enforcement and our prison system is not a justice system. I'll cover that after the break, but our justice system right now is a punishment system. It's only about punishment. And am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know. 877-480-4120. This is Larry Sharpe. You're in the governor's house. Talk to you soon after the break.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.
Are you feeling unhappy with your body, shape, or size? Ever feel out of control with food? I'm Elizabeth from Nourish the Soul, and on this show, you will uncover the root to these imbalances and discover a permanent solution to having a healthy relationship to food and your body. Join us every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you into comics, movies, and pop culture at large? What about music and TV? Then you're in for a treat. This is Michael Dolce, your host on TalkingAlternative.com. I've been professionally writing comic books, screenplays, and music articles for almost 15 years. Catch my show, Secrets of the Sire, at its new primetime slot, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and get the inside scoop on the pop culture universe you love to talk about. For more info, go to secretsofthesire.com.
TalkingAlternative.com.
All right, we're back here at the governor's house. Larry Sharpe, you're going to be part of the program, 877-480-4120. I want to cover a couple of things. I've forgotten half of what I wanted to talk about because I'm yapping during the break too. Let me quickly talk about veteran transition. Veterans, when they come back, they often have a lot of problems, and one of them is just fitting in many ways. One, it's the brotherhood or sisterhood they have in the military, and then they come into civilian life doesn't actually exist as well. That's why many of them want to become police officers, firefighters, CIA agents. They kind of want to shift from one brotherhood to the other. It feels better for them. For many, better if they do that. It gives them another sense of belonging and community. But the second piece is, when you're overseas, particularly if you're in a combat zone, your decisions are often life and death. What you're doing is a big deal. You're in charge of big decisions. You're in charge of large equipment that's worth tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. So now you come back and someone says, be a barista. You come back and someone says, I don't know if you can send that PowerPoint out. It's not correct. And you say to yourself, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I don't care about your PowerPoint. I was doing such bigger and badder things before. And now I care about your silly PowerPoint because you're going to sell something for $100. So you have that problem also. So to the best of your ability, try to give your veteran a sense of community and belonging. The more you can do that, the better. So, all right. Hold on. I'm sorry. What was I going to talk about? My lovely wife, you told me, what did you want me to talk about?
What do you say to veterans when they've been here for a while?
Yes.
Obviously, when they return, you can say, welcome home. But let's say they've been home for a year or 2 years and you just happen to see them after that.
I would still tell them welcome home. Okay, yeah, so that was good. All right, so I did cover that. See, I followed my wife first. I was very good. All right, I want to talk about the penal system and the punishment system. All right, the justice system right now is totally broken because it's not about justice in any way, shape, or form for many reasons. Number one, it goes back to this idea of worshiping law and worshiping government. I know it sounds bad, but it's very true. Why? I know this. I have done work with criminal attorneys, been in jury selection, helped them to create opening and closing for criminal cases. I've seen how this thing works. I'm not an expert. To be clear, I'm not an expert. I've just seen how it works. Here's what I know. If you are arrested, you are assumed guilty. I know our laws say that we're not. You are. The judge thinks you're guilty. The prosecutor doesn't care and just wants to convict you, period, because if they arrest you, they are judged based upon conviction rate. They want you convicted. They actually don't care if you're guilty. They're going to try to make you guilty. They'll build a case against you either way. The jury assumes you're guilty. That's why you're there. They automatically assume government is correct. I know some of you libertarians, your hair is ready to fall out. You can't believe I'm saying this, but it's absolutely true. They absolutely believe that you are guilty off the bat. So the press assumes you're guilty. And if you're popular, they immediately begin to hammer you as guilty. They assume you're guilty. So everyone assumes you're guilty. Now that's number one. Number two, what's the goal? Is the goal justice? No, the goal is punishment. There's literally a chart, and they decide how much they're going to punish you and how they're going to punish you. Oh, okay, you did this, so you get your punishment. So it's just a punishment system. Now, why do I say that? Okay, here's what happens. You have a house, and I'm a drug user, an addict, and I decide to rob your house to get my fix. Should I go to jail? Of course I should. I robbed your house. Not because I'm an addict, not because I have a drug. That's my choice. I shouldn't go to jail for that. But I now took your property, so I should go to jail for that. I should be arrested, of course. So I get arrested. So here's the best part. I get arrested, and they give me, say, I don't know, 3 years or whatever they give me in jail. Awesome. They give me 3 years. What happened to you? Did you get your property back? No. In fact, when I get my court-appointed attorney and I go to jail, who pays for that? Well, you do. So you got robbed twice now. You got robbed by me robbing you, and by you paying for my jail time, and for you paying for my lawyer. You got robbed twice. But not just that. Your insurance rates go up. Your insurance rates go up because I robbed you. That's awesome. You got robbed 3 times. So you got robbed 3 times. I go to jail for 3 years. I come out. I'm a convicted felon. I have no choice to do anything except go back to a bad life of crime because I can't get a job anymore. I have no skill set. I have no job. And odds are in jail, I was still on drugs because jail doesn't work and drugs are all throughout jail. So I'm probably still an addict on top of it. So I'm an addict still. I can't get a job. I'm a convicted felon. You didn't get anything back. That's our prison system. That's our justice system. That's how it works. And everyone smiles and says, we're winning. Look what we're doing. We have justice. That's not justice. That's punishment. There's a difference. So, Larry, do you have an answer? I do. If I rob your house and I take $2,000 worth of stuff, guess what? I owe you $2,000. How about that? I owe you what I robbed from you. I owe you that. How about that? How about when I go off to jail, instead of me right now, which happens now in New York, is I work for a government corporate hybrid that gives money back to the government at like 40 cents an hour of my labor. It's basically indentured servitude, slave labor. So I give some money back to the government and some to a corporation. People get paid upon this, upon my labor in jail, but you don't. How about instead, if you're going to put me in jail, you put me to work to give me an actual skill where I can get a job. But Larry, we're paying for that. No, instead I work for a company at regular wage, whatever that wage is, and the wages go back to paying the government for my incarceration. Hence your taxes don't go up. And the $2,000 I owe you. Hence you are actually giving your money back. Then whatever else I earn, I keep, and I have a skill. So when I get out, I can actually get a job. I can actually be part of the community. But Larry, why should we be helping someone who goes to jail? Because you care about your fellow man. That's why. That's what you should do. Because with that, it's a justice system. With that, taxes don't go up for keeping me in jail, and the person who I robbed gets something back. Yeah, that's justice. That's what it should be. Now, is that going to happen tomorrow? No way. We are so far from that. That's fantasy world right now. But that is what we should be talking about, to shift our system towards actual justice, not just punishment. Punishment just makes everybody unhappy. Now, should I be punished for my crime? Yes, but I can be punished and rehabilitated. I can be punished and provide justice for the victim that I created. It's not one or the other. It can be all three. It's not the end of the world. This can happen. But our idea about this has to change. We have to change from a punishment system instead to a system of actual justice, to where I can make a mistake, pay my debt to society, pay my debt to my victim, and get back into the world and support the people who I should be supporting. Because we have to go one step further than this. Now I've robbed you, and I'm a felon. I also have a family, right? Because before I became an addict, because in case you don't know this, 80% of all addicts start on prescription drugs that are okayed by the government. So to be clear, the government literally creates addicts. Literally, the government creates addicts, then jails them. So it creates the problem and then punishes you for the problem it created. We've seen this before, haven't we? So now I was a family man. I had a wife and a kid. I became an addict. And of course, as an addict, I lose my family. I lose my job. That's what happens because I care about my drug more than anything else. Now I'm down to robbing people now. That's what happened. So I'm probably divorced. I've got child support. How am I going to pay child support? I can't. If I don't pay child support, what happens? My wife gets mad. I might go to jail. What do? I do one of two things. I abandon my family and skip the state. Happens all the time, right? And hope that in the next state they don't find my criminal record. Hopefully I can get a job and do something. Once in a while I see my kid here or there, maybe. My wife hates me. I'm deadbeat dad. Option one. Option two, what do? I go back to selling drugs. Something I can do to support my family. I go back to the underground. What else can I do? So I have two choices. Skip the state or go back to the drugs. Wonderful. That's our justice system. So how did my ex-wife get helped? She didn't. She lost her husband. She lost a breadwinner. How did my child get helped? He didn't, or she didn't, because they don't have a father anymore in their life, or they have a father who's a criminal, or they have an abandoned father. Oh, isn't that awesome? Thank you, government. Thank you, justice system, for making things better, because you're protecting me and helping me. You're not. You're not. Punishment is not the end game. Punishment can be a means to an end, perhaps. That could be, absolutely. But punishment, sadly, in our current system, is the end game, and that's a problem. All right, let me see if I can go down to some more of these things. I don't live in New York, but I know stop and frisk was a big issue in New York. That'd be a topic. Yeah, stop and frisk. Of course, stop and frisk is a bad idea. I'm searching people for no reason. You know, people always say the same thing. Well, if you've got nothing to hide, you shouldn't be. Here's the worst part: the government has more secrets than any individual. And if you're Edward Snowden and you actually let out the secrets, you have to go live in Russia, or you go to jail. But they take my secrets, well, it's you know, security. It's okay. Well, if the government has nothing to hide, then can't we see their secrets? It has to go both ways. Either my privacy matters or it doesn't. If the government's privacy matters, then so does mine. Period. If the government's privacy matters, so does mine. Here's what I know. No terrorist attack has ever been stopped by stop and frisk, ever. Ever. Never has. No crime has been stopped by stop and frisk, ever. People have been put in jail because of it, because they happen to have something that's illegal. Yeah, but no one was getting ready to shoot someone. Oh, stop and frisk, and oh, you saved their life. Never happened, ever. It's useless. I would rather, as I said last night, and I'll say it again, I would rather a guilty person go free than an innocent person be imprisoned. That's what our country was built upon. That's why we have our Bill of Rights. I'm sorry, had. Theoretically, we have it, but in New York, we don't. So in some states, you have parts of it, but you don't have the whole thing here in New York State at all. We had that for a reason, because that's what we were built upon. All right. Let's see. Here we go. Larry, one common argument I see or hear a lot in Connecticut, especially post Sandy Hook, is that we somehow need common sense control of guns. Okay, let me be clear about this. I don't want less dead people every time there's a mass killing or a public suicide. I want less public suicides. The idea that we say, well, let's make gun laws to stop mass killings. That's silly. They use trucks, they use bombs, they use whatever. And we've seen it here in New York. We've seen people literally use a truck to kill people. I don't want less people dying because during each attack. I want less attacks. Let's change our culture that people don't want to do that. That's the issue. And I talk about this all the time. I want less people wanting to kill themselves in the public. I want less people wanting to do mass shootings and mass killings, period. All right, if you guys want to support what I'm doing, if you like what I'm saying, then support me. LarrySharpe.com. Give what you can. $50, $100, $44,000 is my max. $10 is fine. Give me $18 per month for 2018, and you've made me very happy. Help me out. It's LarrySharpe.com, or like me on the Facebook page, Larry Sharpe for New York. Also, help out the Talk Radio. Here to Talk Radio Marathon all day. 12 hours today of awesome, cool shows. Not only me, I just kick it off because I'm the cool guy. I'm the tip of the spear. So I start it, but there's a lot of people behind me. Keep listening at TalkRadio.NYC and talk to me soon. I want to hear from you. Talk to you soon. I'll see you next 2 weeks. 2 weeks on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. at the Governor's House.
You're listening to the Talking Alternative Network.